All people are
when you obey
manifestations
God's word
of
that was built by
total
slaves,
reality.
and I watch my daughters.
There is nobody that respects women more than I do.
There is a lot of crisis, a lot of bad.
this.
Hey everybody, Michael Gunger here. I've been away from this podcast for a while. My apologies. It's been exhilarating. It's been horrifying. It's been painful for me the last few months. I can't get into all the details about it because there's other people involved, but there's just been a lot of circumstances that are extremely activating and uncomfortable going on in my life. And it's really been, this will sound to some perhaps dismissive or trying to candy coat something, but when I say that it's grace, it really is just the plainest way that I know how to speak about this pain. Because in the same way that when you get a massage, the pain is like a good pain. It's a pain of releasing tension. It's a pain of opening up muscles. And so it's experienced like that because that's the context in which you understand it to be happening. And the context in which I understand all of this pain in my life to be happening is that it's all perfect. Perfect in that, what else could it be? What else could this be other than this? We use our imaginations and we tell stories about what else it could be. I could be speaking into a banana rather than a microphone. But that's not what's happening. And what is it that made me speak into this microphone right now? My thoughts, my decisions. And then you look at those. My thoughts, well, where did those come from? Who made me think the thought? I was sitting in my hot tub moments ago. I'm actually all wet. I thought, hey, I'm going to go talk into the microphone for a few minutes and check in with the Loving This podcast listeners. Where did that thought come from? Where do thoughts come from? I mean, they're apparently associated with the body, the brain. They apparently are associated with the context in which that body and brain finds itself in. Right? Because if this body hadn't been in an environment that is 2019 with this little back house back here with this computer that has the password to upload this podcast, if all the context of this body wasn't exactly like this, that thought wouldn't have occurred. If I didn't speak English, if I didn't have a sense of an audience and who they are, all the surrounding circumstances to this body was all part of what gave rise to that thought. The brain interacting with its environment, trying to survive. But there's nobody in there, in the brain. You can't find a little Michael in there pulling levers going, okay, now think, Because if there was, what made him think? What made him think to come speak into this microphone? Is there a little guy in his head too? There's never an end. You can't find a little somebody who can decide out of nothing. It's just interaction. It's just movement. The environment moving in and as and around this body. And a thought happens. I'll go talk into the microphone. And how do I decide whether to follow that thought or not? Again, is there a little guy in there in the brain going, I decide this. Yes, get out of the hot tub and go. How did he decide it? Same thing. How did he decide that? How did the brain decide that? It just did. And the body got up and moved. How the hell did it do that? Take a look at your hand for a second, if you feel so brave and so inclined. Now I invite you to just let your fingers start wiggling a little bit here as I'm talking. And just watch your fingers move on your hand. And just keep listening to me, but letting the fingers move. Now let me ask you, how are you moving those fingers? Like, you have a sense that you're moving your fingers. It's like, yeah, I'm moving my fingers. But are you? Are you doing it? How? Just keep watching those fingers move and see if you can see that they're just moving. See if you can feel the difference between a sense of you moving them and just noticing that they are moving. How do you do that? How does the thought and the desire, I want to move my finger, turn into fingers moving? Do you know how to send the electricity from your brain down your spinal column, using your nervous system to constrict muscles and tendons and move things? Like, do you know how to do that? I don't. It just happens. And so the body just had a thought, made a decision, jumped out of the hot tub, came to the microphone, and is now just saying things. It's just making sounds. It's just making sounds that make it feel good. And make it feel like it's connected to whoever's listening out there. But who's listening? Who are you? If not that body, but not only that body, all that that body entails, which includes its environment, the air that you're breathing, all the universal constants that make atoms do what they do, heat and gravity. All these things moving, giving rise to thoughts and constricted muscles and tendons and bodies making sounds that to create meaning and connection with. It's all just happening. And that is the context in which I've been experiencing pain. My understanding is that discomfort is something that most of us do our best to avoid with all of our strength. And don't get me wrong, I love a good Advil. And I like avoiding discomfort as well, as much as I possibly can. But I also understand at this point, I'm learning that I've never experienced any growth. I've never gotten better at guitar without some discomfort involved. I've never learned some wisdom without some discomfort involved. I've never gotten stronger in my body without some discomfort involved. Discomfort is simply your body communicating, hey, hey, things are changing. And sure, there can be a pain in that and a desire for it to be other than what it is. But when you see there's no little guy in this brain over here making things happen. But the result of all this discomfort, I know if I let go to it and listen to it and pay attention to it and fully experience it, I know there's ways that the body is opening up, letting go of attachments, having those muscles release, unconstrict. Surrender is moving in to the bones. And that hurts. But that's necessary. Because what is that hurt other than the release itself? Other than the constrictions themselves? Communicating that they're being undone. There's a thing called spiritual bypass, which some people have used spirituality to avoid the pain of their life. Where, you just think, well, whatever your constructs of spirituality are, this is God's will, or this is all just me, it's all just oneness, or any kind of way of like avoiding the experience and just kind of escaping into some thought. And that can be deceptively attractive and feels like it could even be a healthy thing for a moment. And I've experienced that in my life before, where I've used spirituality to avoid my life. And what I'm inviting you, if I even would say it that strongly, I'm just reporting to you my experience that as I pay attention, the more that I pay attention, meaning the more awareness is conscious of its experience in this body, not just with the stories and abstractions, but like the sensations of the moment. When something hurts me, makes me mad, not escaping from it, I used to, somebody hurt me. I remember there was a time when I was pastoring a church in Denver, and I preached this sermon about forgiveness, and I'd been really mad at somebody, a guy that had really hurt me. And I just walked around for hours going like, I forgive him, I forgive him, I forgive him. I was talking to a friend recently she reminded me of that sermon, and she told me at the time, she was like, I don't know if that's healthy. Yeah, probably not, because I was spiritually bypassing my experience. So what I've been noticing is that rather than trying to change what my body's experiencing, avoiding it, repressing it, and thereby making it all powerful and controlling over me, because if I'm unconscious of it, it's gonna win. But the more I'm conscious and aware of my experience, the more I see the pain as pain and understand that it's part of my body opening up to new possibilities. It's the invitation to now. It's the invitation to this, as opposed to what was or what I wish would be. In those moments of consciousness and clear awareness, the pain is experienced as grace. Because what is it other than just more of this? Becoming more conscious of itself. Fully feeling itself. Riding the wave of its own energy. Not fighting it. Not closing its eyes and hiding from it. Surrendering to it. I'll tell you, it is a much better way to live than when I used to use spirituality to bypass my pain. When I used to use spirituality to avoid discomfort. I find the world much more alive now. The space between my body and this microphone now hums with glory. Maybe that sounds cheesy or exaggerated or silly to some. But where is this space coming from? What makes this space exist? If I don't take a concept like space for granted, and I just feel that the space is in the same way that everything else is. And so often our language constructs make something like space feel like a nothing in between somethings, this body and the microphone, as opposed to that which this body and this microphone arises within. This space that is the ocean of the universe, in which forms rise and fall. Forms that are not other than or separate from the space. So here we are. Bodies thinking and moving and pushing air around. Out of mouths and into eardrums, using electronic gadgets. All for what? To love, to be loved, to enjoy, to play. So enjoy it, beloved. Play, dance, move shit around. Do as you please. And if you'd like, remember who you are in the process, not some small disconnected wave within the ocean, because what is that wave without the ocean itself? You are the ocean. You are this. Just as it is. Perfectly as it is. So feel it all, experience it all, savor this moment. This is all there is.